Some suburbs already boast a lush display of trees and shrubs, but Newcastle also has its eyesores. While industries are vital to the economy, much could be done to camouflage their operations. The council believes many private homes could also do with more foliage. As part of its Green Task Force, trees are available from the council nursery in March Street, Katara, 2 each to the average household for planting on the footpath. It's hard to overstate the virtues of the humble tree.
For privacy, again for beautification, possibly could be for traffic noise reduction.
Bruce Swift is head nurseryman, a devotee
it sort of gets
botany.
back to the people themselves.
He can offer you advice about which trees to plant and where so that problems with root systems and overhead power lines can be avoided. He says the council is not just concerned about encouraging new growth, but preserving old trees.
You can no longer cut down a tree over 3 metres tall without applying to the council for a permit. A tree preservation officer will come and assess the situation and see if it really has to go.
Meantime, it's spring, the perfect time for planting.
I've planted a couple in the front yard and they just won't grow.
It's on this site in Strathmore Road, Caves Beach, that the company Brisbane Water Concrete wants to build a batching plant. The area is zoned general by the Lake Macquarie City Council and is the home of a number of small industries. Already the development application has sparked panic among the residents, businesses, the local Progress Association and principals of the 4 nearby schools. Even the parish priest has raised the alarm. The only available route for the 22-tonne heavy vehicles and delivery trucks to the site is through Park Avenue, already a popular alternative route for southbound traffic avoiding the Pacific Highway. The residents say not only are they concerned about noise and dust pollution and the possible pollution of Black Ned's Bay from runoff, but more importantly, the safety of hundreds of school children.
There are near accidents now with the amount of traffic that uses the roads. Will just be increased with the concrete batching plant.
An environmental impact statement has been completed, but the residents say it's filled with loopholes and mistakes.
It suggested this road beside us here, which is Park Avenue, is a 4-lane road. And as you can see, it's only a narrow single-lane road. Also, the road in the Strathmore Avenue is claimed to be a 4-lane road, and that's even narrower than the one we have here.
According to the Town Clerk of Lake Macquarie, John Rankin, the final report won't come before Council until next month, where the matter is expected to be one of the first that the newly elected body of aldermen will have to deal with.
The gunman herded the customers and employees into a corner just before closing time and opened fire. Police are still searching for the killers, who escaped with less than $700. Meanwhile, police in Illinois have arrested 3 people over the death of a wealthy businessman who was kidnapped then buried alive in a makeshift coffin. The body of 40-year-old Stephen Small, heir to a newspaper and broadcast empire, was found less than a week after a ransom demand was made. And in England, at least 9 people are dead and several others critically injured, following a pile-up on the M6 freeway near Lancaster. The accident involved 2 trucks, a minibus and a number of tourist vehicles.
The lorry driver was thrown through the windscreen onto the motorway.
Flown by Westpac Rescue helicopter to the Royal Newcastle Hospital with a badly damaged right arm. Ambulance officers say the accident occurred at around 3 this afternoon when the man was working in the plant's sizing room. They say his arm was caught between 2 rollers, resulting in much of the skin and tissue on the lower arm being torn off. Workmates quickly released the man and Maitland paramedics stabilised his condition. He is now reported to be in a stable condition and is being examined for possible microsurgery. The Inter-School Drama Festival differs from most, as there are no prizes to be won. Instead, students act for each other, simply for the fun of it.
Cut it out, Bart.
You're right. If I don't behave, Ginny may take it straight home, and no stopping at the beach.
Organisers say the day is designed to foster interaction, not competition. They say it's an opportunity for the schools to see and judge for themselves what others in the area are doing in the dramatic arts. 9 schools are entered in the Drama Festival this year, taking turns to be the performers or the audience. The students range in age from 14 to 17, and the only stipulation is that plays must be under half an hour in length. Drama is currently being taught in many secondary schools in the state, although usually as an elective or out of school hours. Its status, however, is rising. Next year, for the first time, drama will be included as an option in the school certificate, and there are plans within a few years to make it examinable for the HSC as well.
Haven't you noticed?
2 weeks ago, when the grand final was first scheduled, it had to be postponed because of wet weather. Last week, at the second attempt at finding premiers, both Regals and Centrals were tied 1-1 after extra time, and the grand final was scheduled for a third time today. For Centrals, it looked like it could be third time lucky, as Regals had to take the field minus 2 of its best players, Tanya Giblet and Alison Lippy, who were on representative duties with the New South Wales combined high schools team. However, at full time, both sides remained scoreless, and not even 10 minutes each way of extra time could split the sides. So after 2 weeks and 3 hours of play, deservedly Regals and Centrals have been declared joint winners. For Centrals, it's the second year in a row they have shared the premiership. Last year they won it jointly with Novos. Vice President of the New South Wales Teachers Federation, Janet McLean, says the tax office is using teachers as a cheap way of drawing attention for the implementation of the ID card.
They haven't said how many of them were actually guilty, they just said how many were called in. And that in itself is a very superficial and cheap way of doing things.
Why would you think they would single out teachers?
I suppose teachers are a good emotional fallback. It's good to kick a teacher. Everyone's had a teacher in their life, so everyone can relate to a teacher. Although people have many good teachers, they'll always have a teacher that they didn't relate to, and teachers generally are good to kick, and we're a bit tired of being kicked.
The Hawke government is continuing to lose ground in its battle to win over the Australian people with the ID card proposal. Most publicity has been against the card, and Ms McLean says this attack on teachers by the tax office will not win any more support.
I think they're trying to get in and put their side, and they've found a way of getting a good headline at the expense of a very important sector of the public service. And I think they should be ashamed of themselves. It's disgraceful.
Okay. Today's grand finals in 3 grades attracted only a small but vocal crowd of about 1,000 to the #1 sports ground. The game was expected to be close, as Williamstown had only scraped in by 3 points in the second semi-final 2 weeks ago. However, that wasn't to be the case, with Williamstown shooting to a 32-point lead at half-time. Nelson Bay started the third quarter like a team possessed, kicking 3 goals in the first 5 minutes. That was to be the only period of the match that would prove competitive. The final score, Williamstown 25-22, 172, too good for Nelson Bay, 14-13, 97. West won the reserve grade, 15-25, 115, to Cardiff 11-8, 74, and in the under-17s, Port Stephens 10-14, 74, defeated Cardiff 8-6, 54.
This is the 12th year the Wildflower Spectacular has been held, and the perfect spring weather we've been having meant the displays were at their best. The annual event is organised by the Newcastle branch of the Society for Growing Australian Plants, and it's an ideal opportunity to showcase the great range of Australian native flora. All the displays were put together by Society members and included some familiar and some not so familiar specimens. The Spectacular is an ideal opportunity for the public to find out which varieties of Australian natives grow best in certain conditions. And so free practical advice was offered again this year for those interested in making their gardens a little more Australian.
Christian Andersen's fairy tales are perhaps the world's most remembered and best loved, especially The Snow Queen. From the pages of the storybook, Noah's Flood Productions presents the fable in their latest colourful children's opera. The music, composed by Graham Dudley, and the libretto by Maitland boy Nick Enright, tell the story of the little boy with a splinter of glass in his eye and heart, who was taken away by the Snow Queen to her icy palace far away. And it's the story of the little girl who went off to find him. In the leading role, Irene Wall portrays the Snow Queen. More than 150 students from 45 regional schools, including the CAE and the Newcastle Conservatorium, will star in the 7 performances at City Hall during this week. And according to producers, the show is not only entertaining but educational.
It's very much educational. The object of the Noah's Flood Production Committee was to provide performing opportunities for the hundreds of children across the region that learn instruments and get precious little experience actually playing them in front of an audience.
The Melbourne-based Filiki players are performing The Journey at the Roxy Theatre. The play has already been seen in Wollongong, and the 6-member cast will go on to perform in Brisbane and Sydney later this month. The Eastern Tour is a first for the Filiki players, who have until now performed only in Victoria. The Journey is being toured by the Australian Elizabethan Theatre Trust and has been written and directed by Tessa Siotis. She says the play is unique because it's written from her own experiences as the daughter of migrants and demonstrates the disappointment and friction which resulted from an alien culture and lack of suitable work opportunities.
It's also unique in the sense that it's a multilingual production, and not just multilingual in the sense that there are 1 or 2 words in another language, but a great deal of the play is in Greek and Italian. But still the basic language spoken, it is English, so anyone who doesn't understand Greek or Italian can still follow what is being communicated in each scene.
The majority of exhibitors today were hoping that this year won't be plagued with the same wet weather of past years. With most of them displaying their wares outdoors, a downpour will definitely be out of order. For those who are puzzled by the presence of smashed up stock cars and are wondering whether they could be the new fad feature in garden landscaping, think again, because this year the Home Improvement Expo has not only expanded to pleasure and leisure, but also motorsports. And there were vehicles of every size and use to be admired by car enthusiasts. But now back to the main aspect of the Expo, home improvement, where one could easily be fenced in once they've seen the light, to dive in and buy whatever their heart desires, or walk in through whatever door may open for them. Then there are those who are really in the swim, like Blue Haven Pools, who won the prize for the best overall exhibit. The Newcastle Star Home Improvement Expo will be open over the next 3 days and will finish at 6 o'clock on Sunday night.
Today's grand final was expected to be close. In preliminary rounds, University had been victorious twice and Norths once, with both sides sharing the minor premiership. In the major semi, Norths were the winners 1-0, giving the sides 2-win, 2-loss records before today's grand final. Only 15 minutes into the game, tempers flared as neither side could gain the upper hand. University were unlucky not to score in the 20th minute when the referee ruled the ball had not been effectively stopped from a penalty corner before being hit into the goal. Norths also missed an opportunity 5 minutes later from a penalty corner. At half-time, the scores were 0-0, but Norths scored 2 goals in the second half for Unis 1 to deny University their first ever premiership.
Today's battles in the bush were the last in the 1100-kilometre 3-day rally that attracted the best of Australian and international teams. Late yesterday, current Australian champion Greg Carr was forced out in his Alpha after mechanical problems. The field was narrowed down even further today, with favourites Ian Hill driving the Subaru and Jim Middleton in his Holden Commodore were also forced out of the event. That left the way right open for last year's winning team Wayne Bell and navigator David Boddy. At the end of the day, third place went to Western Australian Adrian Taylor in his Honda Integra, coming home just behind fellow Westerner Rob Herridge in his Subaru. But the event belonged to Bell and Boddy, now preparing for the 4th round of the National Championships in South Australia next month, and they're hoping for a smoother run.
Very, very hard event. The roads were quite rough, and we had some strong competition early on. Unfortunately, they had bad luck with their cars, which meant that we had a fairly good lead. But today we had mechanical problems with the car. It was using a lot of water, so we had to take it fairly steady, and actually we were lucky to be at the finish.
OK, well, over to Dave Boddy, right-hand man of Wayne and navigator, cruised in 10 minutes ahead at the end.
Yes, we didn't have to try at the finish. We just rolled along. We could afford to lose a bit of time. We stopped frequently to fill it up with water, because we knew we had no worries. We could use up that 10 minutes, and as it turned out, we didn't need to.
Will the team be back again next year?
Certainly will.
The Newcastle branch of the Surf Life Saving Association recorded 350 rescues last year and gave first aid to more than 1,000 people. As the weather warms up and school children begin their holidays, the beaches will become even busier, and sun lovers are advised to take care.
All times are dangerous to swim in the sea if you don't take notice of all the dangers that might be there. But that's the surfing season, the hottest period, and that's when most of the people go to the beach.
What are some of the most dangerous aspects of the beach?
Well, most people go to unpatrolled beaches. That's very dangerous. But if you go to the beach and you swim between the red and yellow flags, there shouldn't be too many dangers.
However, he says people should be careful of dumping waves, which can cause serious spinal injuries. Those who do get into trouble should try to float and raise their hand to attract a lifesaver. The volunteers are trained to be effective.
Well, 70 years without a recorded drowning in the flagged area, and that's pretty good.